Hello and happy Saturday. Thank you so much for your patience with us. As you all know, we're going to go churchy for about 2.5 seconds. When the Lord is blessed and the devil starts Okay, I think we can see. I think we can. Well, I think we can be seen. I think we can be heard. Am I correct? All right, I think so. I think we are good to go. So, as I was saying, I'm excited to have Dr. Lanessa McCloud here with me for the third interview of Millennial Voices of the Triad. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm just gonna jump right in because there is so much. There are some things that I know, and there are some things that I want to know. And so we are talking about the legacy beyond the clouds, the legacy of the McClouds, the legacy of Greater Tabernacle Worship Center. And as I grew up knowing it as Tabernacle of Faith, yes, 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 yes. Before we get into that, let's talk about family. So you are the daughter, the legacy. Before I jump into that, the legacy. These are preachers. These are prophets. These are psalmists, founders. There's so much in this family. So I know that even as daughter, granddaughter, cousin, sister, like you couldn't be more proud. So tell me about your family.
Okay, so yes, my family. And one thing I do want to say is that family for me has always been just like the cornerstone of, of who I am, and my family has played a very large part of my life. So my family, I do come from a background of, like you said, preachers, psalmists. A lot of preachers
Yeah.
are in my family, but also a lot of singers we do have in our family as well. And people who are who love other people and helping people.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of the background of my family and who we are and where we're kind of our background and who we are. So yeah, I mean that's
the McCloud.
That's the McClouds.
That's the McCloud. So
yeah.
you are the daughter of prophetess Pamela McCloud.
That's exactly right. Yes.
Growing up in the house with the prophetess, it was enough that grandma and granddaddy, were. But how was it growing up in the house?
Yes, my mom, behind closed doors. Let me tell you, she is just one who I always say, she gave me a lot of love. That's one thing that I really, got from her. But she was not, one who will, point the finger, on your wrong or mistakes. Now she got me straight. She was the only disciplinarian for me in the family. So yeah, anyone else, when it was time to get the correction going, she was the one to do that. But she would also come back with a lot of love and support, which is what I always tell people about my mom. So yeah, I mean, growing up for me was very fun. And I tell people, and it's no secret or no story. I was not raised in a nuclear family home. Nuclear family is simply meaning where there was a mom, dad, a dog, picket fence, and all of those things. But I was very blessed and fortunate to have a lot of love and support. So I am definitely a product of it takes a village to raise a child. So I always say that, and but I was very blessed and fortunate to have an amazing childhood because I had a lot of people who poured love and support into me.
Wow. So you are the oldest, and you have a sister.
Yes.
Okay. Then it's your sister preaching.
She is not.
Okay.
She's not yet.
But we're not pushing. We're not pushing.
She's not yet.
Pushing. Okay.
Yeah, and she's actually she lived in Durham, but she has moved once again. But she does where she is. She does work in ministry.
Okay.
So she does a lot of help and support with like the youth ministry at the church where she is.
Yeah.
So ministry is all up and through. With or without the title.
Yeah, it continues.
The work continues.
Yes. Yes, the work continues. So, what number grandchild are you?
So I am the oldest. I'm the first. Yeah. Which is why, like I said, I was doted on a lot growing up.
Oh yeah.
That's why I do say I was very blessed and fortunate to have a strong support system.
Yes, and you got spoiled real good.
Yes. Oh yes. I have so many fond memories. A lot of fond memories. And I think being the first probably plays a part.
Oh yeah. So how many grandchildren, great grandchildren are there?
Okay, so there are 6 grandchildren total of us, and out of the 6, there are 3 great grandchildren who we love so much. We try to give them that same love and support. They are such a joy and blessing. So yes, it's 3 of them. Yes.
Hey, I'm here for it. We had Pastor Bethany on here back in January, and she was talking about being an auntie.
Yes.
And I said, well, yeah, when it comes down to that auntie thing, the great auntie, I am the one that let them get away with murder. And if you try to discipline them, I'm going to be crying with them.
I understand.
Yeah, they didn't do it, or they didn't mean it.
There you go. Absolutely. And they need that. They need that role. That's all of it. For sure.
Like, oh no, they didn't mean it. So, now you were there. I'm assuming. Let me not say you were there when Tabernacle was first started. Were you born yet?
So I was not born when it initially started.
Okay.
I was born a year after the ministry was established.
Okay.
So a year later was actually when I was born, but it was established, yes, in 1983, and I was born the year following.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay. We're almost twins. We are almost twins.
I'm
I
sorry.
love
Like, I'm getting
it.
excited.
Right. I'm like, we're almost twins. Our birthdays almost coming out. Our birthdays are around the corner. Everybody needs a good May. I'll say May person in their life.
Yes.
So what, as far back as you can remember,
Mhm.
what are your first memories of the church?
Wow. Oh goodness. Some of my earliest memories of the church, for sure. It ties in a lot with music.
Yes. Yes.
And I will say, my aunt, who is Cassandra McCloud,
Mhm.
I contribute a lot of that to her because she was the one who kind of really established, that foundation from my earliest memory.
Mhm.
We would, help her sing background. I remember those rehearsals.
Mhm.
My goodness, and just, even people like in the congregation, just kind of understanding how music is truly a ministry, not just a performance, but it is certainly a ministry, and really, not being taught that for one, and then two, growing up seeing that, how people were, delivered or just, set free just through song.
Exactly.
So those were some of my earliest, memories when it comes to the ministry. It's centered a lot around music.
I love it. That's one thing I definitely remember, even about Tabernacle.
Yeah.
Like when I was younger in the late 80s, early 90s, and the fellowship between Tabernacle and Calvary Hill, when Calvary Hill was on Urban Street.
Yes.
So I'm an Urban Street baby, but Urban Street kid. I'll say that. I'm an Urban Street kid as far as the church. But I remember hearing your aunt sing for the first time.
Yes.
I still remember the song she sung, and as a kid, I never forgot her
Yeah.
because of hearing her sing. She sung, I think it's Blessed Be the Lord.
Uh-huh.
I think it's Father in Heaven, how we love you.
Yes.
She sung it. I like the lost it, even as a kid, and I never forgot that. And I always talked about how I enjoyed hearing her.
Yeah.
So with having her to nurture and develop the gift that was in you
Absolutely.
already. A little birdie told me, because since I've known you, I've always known you to sing alto. But a little birdie by the name of Corey Jones told me you actually sing soprano, or you started out in soprano.
That's where I started, for sure. That's exactly where I started.
Wow.
And it's funny because, like I said, training, like we were trained and brought up to, if a part is missing,
You feeling
you feel it.
Yeah.
Okay. You're gonna feel it.
and feeling right.
And feel it right. You're coming correct.
Exactly. Like, don't feel in the party. You'll know wrong.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
So just growing up, I started out as a soprano, but eventually ended up singing, alto.
Yeah.
But, because of that training, I am definitely versed in all parts. So,
How often do you actually sing soprano though?
When it's needed,
Okay.
it's just it's on an as needed basis.
It's not your preference. Oh my goodness. I know quite a few who started out in soprano and they sing alto. Now I'm saying, I would have never thought you were a soprano. Rebecca Hines last month, she let me know that she's a soprano. She started out in soprano, and I said, no way.
Wow.
Because the richness of, not saying sopranos can't have rich tone.
Mhm.
I don't want to get beat up because the people are like, sopranos can be rich tone too. But because you're such a rich tone,
Yeah.
and you can pick your voice out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, I can pick your voice out. There have been times where I've heard music or I've been in a service and I can hear your voice. Like, it's a very, I'll say Tabernacle has a sound, a distinct sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, y'all definitely do. Y'all definitely do. And so that foundation comes from your aunt.
Yes.
Wow.
I would definitely, yes, contribute that
Yeah,
to her for sure.
I love it. I want to take a moment just to acknowledge Dr. Daney is on, and we just want to say hello to Dr. Daney. I'm late seeing it. He said we can see you and hear you.
Okay.
Hopefully it wasn't during our technical difficulties, but thank you for letting us know. And Pastor Koger, of course, is on, as well as Pastor Koger is here with us, and we appreciate him working on all this stuff for us. Thank y'all so much for, again, your patience. Please feel free to subscribe, to share, and to comment. Let us know that you are here, and we appreciate you so much. So, now that we're already into ministry and how ministry just rings throughout the family, can we talk about the starters, the founders, the McClouds?
Yes.
Bishop Alonzo and Apostle Brenda J. McCloud, your grandparents.
Yes.
Oh, I'm excited. One, this is March is Pastor's Wife Appreciation Month, so this is significant to talk about even Apostle McCloud, who even after Bishop McCloud transitioned on, how she continued. Again, there's that legacy, continue the ministry. So Bishop McCloud passed when?
So he passed away in 2000. It was December. It's funny. I was 16 at that time, but they say with certain memories, it's just certain ones you never forget. They're like historical moments, and that's one for sure. So he died. He passed away December 5th of 2000.
Wow.
Yes.
So it's coming up on 25 years.
Yes.
And so she kept the ministry going until what year?
So it was until 2018. And that was interesting too. It's just my grandfather, he did about 18 years, and she did somewhat of about 18 years. So it was very interesting, kind of, once we kind of broke things down, and it was like wow, just some eye-opening pieces.
Yeah, for sure. Often it's hard to make sense. Of certain situations, and definitely when it's someone so close and someone, like you said, that's a big part of your village. And so I remember getting a call when Apostle McCloud passed, and it being surreal. I know it doesn't compare to the feeling. That your family felt, and even the church family felt. I want to spend some time on her because she is one of, I believe, there were 5 of them, that I'm aware of. Let me be clear that I'm aware of 5 pastors' wives in the city who took their husbands' ministries over. The first one that I was aware of was Pastor Rennick. Bishop Rennick was the pastor of Bishop. And then Pastor Dr. Yvonne Hines when Bishop Hines passed. And then it was Apostle McCloud, Pastor Gloria Samuels. And I'm leaving out one more. I can't think of the other one, but there was one more. And so in her doing that, it spoke volumes of one, her relationship and her strength, her relationship with Christ and the strength, because I'm sure you witnessed it, being a pastor's wife. It's not always easy, but then to go and take it up and lead. Your thoughts on watching your grandmother take those steps to make sure that things continued?
My grandmother, she was an amazing woman, and
was.
you know, people, you know, they saw her as the apostle, which
Yeah.
many people, you know, admired her,
Oh, for
loved
sure.
her. I mean, because you know the person who she is. But outside of apostle, I knew her as my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
And in any role she played, I mean, she did it outstandingly well.
Yeah.
To watch her, you know, take on
Mm-hmm.
a ministry, to lead people, to see her do that, and just to kind of see some of the things, you know, because it's, of course, it's anyone know with ministry, you know, it's not always a walk in the park.
Right.
But to kind of see her overcome, you know, those things that were the challenges, and to kind of see, you know, for me, her faith was one thing that stood out, because I'm telling you, that woman, she had a strong faith. She had strong faith.
Absolutely.
And many things, you know, they did manifest because of her faith. And to me, that was, you know, a firsthand witness, firsthand, you know, example.
Mm-hmm.
So she modeled that, you know, through her life, you know, not just, you know, what she preached over the pulpit, but, you know, even behind the scenes, she lived it, and
for sure.
and manifested a lot through it. So, yeah.
Oh yeah. Anybody who came in contact with Apostle McCloud, you definitely left with an imprint.
Yes. Yes.
I have so many fond memories of her that I'm not going to share. I'm gonna let this stick with you. We're gonna talk about. We're gonna allow you to have that conversation. One thing you mentioned was just her being your grandmother, and even though Apostle McCloud was a straight shooter, she didn't pull no punches, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it until she read me. I enjoyed it until she read me. But she was truly an accurate prophet.
Yeah.
I've heard the stories of her prophesying to people, but it wasn't, and I want to be careful because I never want to make light of people and being prophetic. I never want to make light of that. But it wasn't things that people often call the 101 package, where everybody's getting a car and everybody's getting this.
Right.
No, like she walked heavy.
Yeah.
She walked heavy.
Yeah.
Was that something that you would say that you admired about her, or you kind of was like, it's like, I can't get away with nothing with her?
I would say, I mean, it was both, because when it came to if God told her to say something, it didn't matter if it was family.
That's right.
And she loved her. Let me tell you, she loved her family, her grandchildren. She loved us.
Yeah.
And she showed that.
Yeah.
I always say we were blessed. God blessed us with the best grandmother. I always said that, and truly felt that. But you know, when it came to God's business, and if God told her to say something, it didn't matter who it was.
I love it.
You know, she would call any of us out. You know?
I love it. that boldness. Boldness.
Just to, you know, save a soul and to get people where they need to be in Christ.
Absolutely. Tell me about a time where, we ain't gotta say no names, and I know that Elder Richardson, hello Elder Richardson, he said the best and was. Elder Richardson is on. I think we are lost again. We'll figure it out. But just let me know if y'all can still hear us. We gotta keep going. Talking about a time where your grandmother gave a word that either had you like, oh Lord, like almost, we don't laugh at people, right, and I get that, but there are some of the best funny moments in church. Yeah. Some of the best funny moments are in church. Tell me about a time where your grandmother, she was doing the work of the Lord, and she had to say what she had to say to somebody, and you were like, oh, jeez. Do you remember what it was without saying where you were and who it was?
there were many of those moments in church, during church service. You know, it's just so many of them.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think. I know one thing that comes to mind, it was a song, and she was a good songwriter too. So she would come up with songs like on the spot, you know, and some would just really be, you know, powerful, and you know, we would be slain like in the spirit. It was just amazing. But she had this one song that pretty much, and I think they have it recorded somewhere.
This is my favorite. This is my favorite. I already know where you're talking. I know where you're going.
And I said, oh my gosh. You know, because growing up, she, you know, with certain things, like she would tell me, you know, I couldn't say. My grandparents, like, curse words. It was just like, my grandfather always say, no, you know, we don't say darn, we don't say any of those things because it's pretty much a substitute for, you know, so like, that's what I grew up around. We don't say shoot, right? I grew up around that. So to see my grandmother, like, in this role mode and basically, like, just put it out there.
Yeah, and she did. And I enjoyed it.
So you know the song.
I know.
So it's out there, and you know, and she meant every word.
Absolutely.
She stood on it, right? 10 toes down.
That's what I was saying. Absolutely. If you have seen this video, or if you were there, I just need y'all to do one verse with me because I love this song. I even sung it on my way here, and that was just, she said, "Come out of sin, be a boy or girl, put away that weed. Y'all don't like me, and I don't like your sin."
That's the one. That is the one.
Can we just stop right there and put in the chat? Y'all don't like me, and I don't like your sin. No one could do that but her.
Exactly, and still be respected and loved.
Absolutely,
and be received. She had an anointing for that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
I remember we went to sing, and I know he's not on here, but he's going to see this later because I'm going to make sure that he does. Someone we know and love dearly. We were there and we were singing, and Apostle came out the pulpit, and she was saying, no, she started in the pulpit, and she said, our young people go through so much, you know, peer pressure, and she started naming stuff. And she comes out the pulpit and she walks down to where one of our friends was sitting, was standing. And she said, fornication, and said, "What's up?" When she winked and said, "What's up?" This was his first time coming to the church. He had never been. And it scared him to the point he did not come back to Greater Tabernacle until maybe about, I think it was like maybe 2020, maybe 2021. He said, "I can't go back to church and I got myself together." I said, you know what? They don't make them. They don't make them like, well, there's somebody somewhere that's like that. But you appreciate that because there was a conviction.
Certainly.
And, you know, it took him a while before he got it together. But the thing was, he was like, I'm not coming back around this lady until I have, you know, myself together. And this was like in the early 2000s. So I'm like, he waited till he got married. And there came with his kids and everything. I said, okay. Look, my husband was sitting right beside him too when it happened. Child, we was so up. We said, you know, you can't come around Apostle McCloud like that. You cannot. But to speak of her even as your grandmother, from my understanding, and you correct me if I'm wrong, she was either an educator or into education. Is that correct?
Yes. So she does have she has a background with that. She worked in child care, early child care. She started out in that area. Eventually, you know, later on she did as far as her, you know, vocational job, like the secular vocational piece. She's a librarian, so she did work, and that's where, you know, people knew her like as the Jazzy Granny and one of the Jazzy Grannies and all of those things. But she has always been a believer in education. And she would, with us, like growing up, she would really try to push, make sure reading is important. Reading is fundamental. Make sure you read. And at that time, my brain, for me personally, I can't speak for the other grandchildren, but I know for me, my mind wasn't there in the earlier years.
Yeah.
But now, of course, I understand what she meant by that and the importance of reading, But she did start out in education.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that goes to my next point. Her the success rate, even in your ministry.
Yeah.
You being a doctor, Dr. Danny being a doctor, even Ebony O'Ham.
Yes.
Dr. Ham being a millionaire.
Yes.
Yes. There is, and then there are others, but there's success, that comes out of it. And one out of Greater Tabernacle, and one thing that I zeroed in on with even Dr. Ham was her, I think It Can't Run Out.
Yes.
And that being something that came from,
yes.
Apostle McCloud. It just speaks to how she poured into you all. And how even she set that standard. And so when you look at where you are now, having I gotta make sure I list this because your I don't know if you call it a catalog or what, but a bachelor's, a Bachelor of Art in Psychology from Wisconsin State, a Master of Science in Counseling, and a doctorate in counselor education and supervision from North Carolina A&T.
Yes.
Well accomplished.
Thank you.
Well accomplished, well educated. I know she is proud.
Yes. And she and my grandfather, because they were like my heroes, growing up, and even today, they're still like, I love them so much. I can't even express with words. But they were definitely a big part of the reason that I did complete my PhD, because it is, for those who have taken that journey, they know that it is it's not one for the weak. I mean, it's a tedious one. But, for those who endure to the end, they're the ones who get it,
Oh, yeah.
But definitely, I could just, like you say, beyond the cloud of witnesses, I felt them pushing me and encouraging me, you can do this, for the family.
Absolutely.
So,
and I'm sure this is something that they both spoke over you, that you would be here.
That's right.
Yeah, that you would be here.
That's right.
Oh my God. So to even see those that you were in ministry with, and to see where y'all are now, what does that do for you?
It makes me proud. I'm very proud of, I'm telling you, there have been many people over the years, that's been a part of ministry. That's ministry. People come, they go, they move, they transfer. God's called them, to their own ministry. That's a part of life, and that happens.
Yes.
But for me, I am, very proud to know that I am a part of people who imparted, who planted that seed in a lot of people who are doing, really great things today, and most of it, a bunch of it is for God. We had a legacy ball in honor of my grandmother's, what would have been her 80th birthday for this year, but we did have a legacy ball in honor of that. And just to hear some of the stories, that people shared, how, they were, may come from, low economic poverty, but, she spoke something to them, and, now they're they graduated college, married with children, or have their own families, and thriving. It makes you feel really good.
Absolutely.
So both of my grandparents, they planted those seeds, and seeing how it's flourished, and the seed didn't fall to the ground. It's
absolutely.
Yeah, it's a good feeling.
I love it. It can't run out.
It can't run out.
It cannot run out. If you are still with us, make sure that you have shared, make sure you are liking and engaged with us. Thank you so much. I'm trying to do better. I'm trying to do better when I get in conversation. I'm like, oh yeah, you guys, I'm sorry. So make sure that you are engaging with us. So as far as with your educational background, what are I noticed one thing was your love for the community.
Yes.
So how are you utilizing this PhD in your community?
Yes. So with that, I mean, at this moment, I still I do a lot of work with my. I mean, because like I said, community work is just kind of it's in me.
Yeah.
It's what's there. Even if I try to, do other things, there are many other things I could be doing, but I have to go with that pull and what God's called me to do.
Absolutely.
So as of now. I do work with, children. With my counseling degree, I have worked with, substance abuse. I mean, you name it, believe it or not, offenders. I mean, I've done a lot of different, areas in counseling, but children, there again, it is one where my heart's there.
Gotcha.
So the population that I do work with, the majority of them are on, free reduced lunch. However, the goal and the idea is that, there again, we're planting those seeds at an early age, teaching them those strategies at an early age to where, what they may not be necessarily, receiving or, parents or family may not be knowledgeable of at this moment, we're able to, provide that.
Absolutely.
So, to me, that does connect, with what I'm doing, with my degree, and how I'm able to kind of give back, so to speak, to the community.
Gotcha. So having that connection with even those, like you said, planting those seeds in those that may be not, I guess, less fortunate, or even with it as in minorities, being able to even set them up for success.
Right.
10, 20 years down the line, they're going to be coming to find you and saying, Miss McCloud, I did it. This is where I am. These are my children. This is my family. And so even in that continuation, because to this day, people still remember.
Yes.
People still definitely remember. So you are also a mental health advocate.
Yes.
We used to say that mental health in the Black community, was non-existent. But I would like to think now that due to a lot of you, it is very present in the Black community. Conversations are being had, whether it be just amongst family, resources are available, but also churches are not just at a place of, we're just going to pray and that's it.
Right.
But we are starting to become more educated and having people like you to come in and say, so we need to do this. This is something that we can handle. This might be something that needs to be outsourced, because we believe in God and medicine. We believe in it all. Do you agree that that awareness is starting to rise within the Black community and the Black church?
Yes, I believe that. And of course, I mean, we do have some data that's out there that still says there's work that needs to be done. Absolutely. And we know that. But as far as progress, has there been progress made? Are we, just as you said, we are becoming more educated around these things and seeing that just because, we maybe go see a therapist, it doesn't mean that, that we are crazy. Or, doesn't mean that, it doesn't have that negative stigma around it,
Exactly.
Like I said, it's going to take work because that's a deep-rooted, concept in the community. But I do believe that we are making progress. Yes.
Absolutely. And we can see the progress.
Absolutely.
We can see it. Mental Health Month is coming up in May, and I made mention to Rebecca. I said we might need to do something where we start pulling people in, so y'all can call. Y'all can reach out to her. Another one who's not just, we love the fact that people will we have passions for it, but those that have even went as far as to be educated.
Yeah.
And so definitely reach out to her so she can help, us all and make sure that we do it the right way. In dealing with the Black community, let's go to Black women.
Yeah.
Black women and mental health. I like to think that at this point, where sometimes we have in the past been labeled as extra, we're extra, or we're my mom's favorite word is simple. She's simple-minded. Yes, that is one of my mama's favorites. That's a simple-minded little somebody, And so, in having that history of people calling people simple or people calling people silly acting, and now understanding that there are actually names for these things, diagnosis for these things. Are you optimistic that one day that we will do away with those those old sayings and start to call things what they really are?
Yes. I am very hopeful and optimistic that, and as you said before, the more education that we are, given around these, phrases that we use to describe people, even like with Black women, I know that there is, research that's out there that talks about just as what you said. Sometimes, women who come off as very maybe aggressive or or they may come off, as just angry. Underneath that, there are some things that's going on, and it could be where there is, a diagnosis of some sort, but we are, one of the largest group who are misdiagnosed.
We are.
So
we really are.
I mean, I always say, give us our credit.
Yes.
I think we're amazing women. That's not good. I think all women are amazing. I love it. All women and men. God put us here for a reason.
Absolutely.
But yeah, certainly.
Yeah. And it doesn't help when the generation coming up behind us, when what you have to look at is on TV.
Yeah.
And everything is about going to lunch and throwing drinks.
That's right.
Like even healthy conflict resolution.
Yes.
I just got back into watching a reality TV show that I probably haven't watched in about 6 years. And I said, wow, they're still doing the exact same thing. I'm like, is this what y'all want to put in our, even in our children and our younger people?
Yes.
As this is the way we act when we really don't.
Exactly. Exactly.
when we really don't.
That's right.
And, I often think about in everyday life, and when we look at TV, it's like you're almost trying to dumb them down.
Yeah.
Like there are women out here who go to work every day.
Yes.
Who, when they get off work, they go to the grocery store, they go home.
Yes.
They cook.
Yeah.
They watch TV.
Yeah.
And they get up and do it again tomorrow.
That's right.
Everything's not just sitting around having lunch and
absolutely
cocktails and stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. That's for sure.
I feel like it's almost a silly question, but I'll say in the past, did you ever feel that pressure to fit that mold?
So I would say, in the past, I would say in a sense, yes, because, and I don't know if I would necessarily say to fit that mold, but I would say, because, your younger self, we're constantly developing and evolving, always. That's a part of life. But, your younger self, you are really just trying to, get that identity locked in, right? So, you do have different things coming out, and different ideas or concepts about, who you should be or, who you could be. So, I would say, just, working through, that identity piece and just living and experiencing.
Sure.
It gets you there, eventually. But, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely fighting up against some of those.
how do you mentioned identity, which I think is very important because we don't realize it, but that you start developing who you are at a very young age. So those things that are being put in us, those things that we're seeing, it makes sense now.
Yes.
Older, when your parents were saying, guard your eyes, guard your ears,
Yes.
like you're like, oh no, and then you realize later on some of this stuff actually took root. Like we're gonna have to be an all night prayer to get rid of this stuff, Exactly,
You know?
exactly.
Yes, absolutely.
So when it comes down to your identity, you would definitely give credit to that upbringing.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. As I said, I had a pretty strong support system, and
Mm-hmm.
of course, my mom, she was very loving and supportive. My
Mhm.
grandparents were just outstanding.
Yeah.
But I also had amazing aunts and uncles.
Yeah.
My uncles, their wives, who
Mm-hmm.
I always say, they're I don't really call them in-laws because I've known them since I was probably 4 or 5. They've been in the family a long time. But
Yeah.
they also helped me to get to where I am today. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. And speaking of uncle and aunt, Bishop McCloud and
Yes.
Bishop Philip McCloud and
Yes.
Pastor Michelle McCloud, the now pastors of Greater Tabernacle Worship Center.
Yes.
Ooh, the family.
Right. Yes. Yes.
The family. I think it was a song called "Keeping It in the Family." How it just how it continues.
Yeah.
How it definitely continues. So you mentioned earlier about your aunt when it comes down to your musical foundation. Who were or who are
Mm-hmm.
your influences locally? Because we often can tell you people who have been in the music industry and they sold out arenas and things of that nature. But one thing about with the Millennial Voices is I am very invested in the history of the city when it comes to church. I'm heavy on church history.
Yes.
So who would you say your musical influences were or are when it comes down to locals?
My goodness. Now, as far as musical influences growing up, if anyone knows me, it's so funny because I grew up around music. I love music. It's been a part of my life. But, I don't know as many music artists as you would think.
They can be local. They was around the corner, down the street.
But we do have, but our city, I do know that we do come from a wealth of people, musical influences, growing up. I mean, I would hear stories
Absolutely.
About people. Dr. David Allen, we hear a lot about him.
Yes.
And how he, impacted, the music, all over the world and in our city. And Brixton, how he, played a major a part in that, a lot of his music. So growing up, I would hear about some local people who really made some strong contributions to music in the city. But I will say, as far as a local influence, if it's okay, it's not necessarily a person who's musically connected, but Dr. Linda McCrae. She is one who definitely, she was a great influence for me, not just growing up, when I became a little older, of course, in my late 20s, early 30s. She definitely was one who I actually consider her to be one of my mentors.
Okay, because she's into mental health as well,
yes,
right?
she is.
Okay,
that is correct.
Yeah.
So just kind of seeing how, she's one who loved God, but it goes beyond the four walls. So just kind of seeing that and how, the influence can definitely extend beyond the four walls. So I will say she's one locally who was definitely a positive influence.
Yes, absolutely. I'm familiar with the name, have seen her on panels and things of that nature.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. So what is, now that you've gotten your doctorate?
Yes.
You can take a breather. You can take a breather. I know that is a process. process.
Yes.
I know that it's a process. And again, kudos to you for
Thank
that.
you. Thank you.
Many may aspire, many may start, but not everyone finishes. So, yeah, just keep going and you got it done.
Yes.
What is next for you?
Wow, that question is an ongoing one, right? It's an open question.
Yeah.
Because I do have things that God has placed on my heart.
Yeah.
So definitely just at a place where, I am working on some things and just, trying to hear God and still, do his work for sure. Because I do feel like, you stay connected to him.
Yes.
You're working, working in the field. What I mean by that is you're just basically, you're serving, you're doing what God has called you to do.
Keeping yourself available.
Absolutely. I feel like, whatever is next in me, it'll come.
Gotcha. Well, I know that anytime I call her, which I do often have to call her in the singing capacity. Again, amazing voice, amazing. But we'll be reaching out to you from the place of mental health as well. Yeah, we'll be doing it. Thank you all again for joining us. This has been a great time with Dr. Lanessa McCloud. I will make sure that I will put her information in the description after the live so that you can contact her to bring her in to help with anything that you're doing with the community, anything surrounding education, and even mental health. I appreciate you again on this Saturday.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. So, Beyond the Cloud with the McCloud legacy, family legacy, with the first grandchild. The oldest grandchild, Dr. Lanessa McCloud. We appreciate you taking time with us today, and we hope that you all will come back and join us next week when next month, next month when we jump in. If you have not subscribed, please make sure that you subscribe, you share, and you go back and like it after it is over. Enjoy your Saturday. Have a good one.